Before this video ends, you will understand how a young king with just 47,000 exhausted soldiers walked into the heart of the world's greatest empire and shattered it forever. But before we begin this legendary story, make sure you like this video because YouTube hides history content unless you support it. Subscribe to the channel right now if you want more untold battles.
We attack at dawn. It is the only way.
The river is too swift, General. We risk the cavalry.
We should wait. No, we move now.
Forgotten kings and moments that changed the world forever. Your support keeps real history alive. Now imagine this. A vast open plain stretching as far as the eye can see. Dust rising into the sky. The ground flattened deliberately to favor cavalry. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers standing in perfect formation, archers, infantry, elite Persian cavalry, war chariots with blades on their wheels, even trained war elephants. This was not just an army. This was the full power of the Persian Empire, the richest and largest empire the world had ever seen. And marching toward it was a 26-year-old king named Alexander of Macedon, standing at the head of an army that was outnumbered more than 5-1. No reinforcements were coming, no retreat was possible. Victory meant total domination. Defeat meant the end of his dream, and likely his life. This is the story of Gaugamela, the battle where numbers failed, fear ruled, and genius destroyed an empire. By the year 331 BCE, the ancient world stood at a crossroads. For more than 2 centuries, the Persian Empire had dominated the known world, stretching from the Indus Valley in the east to the Mediterranean coast in the west. It controlled countless cultures, languages, and peoples, united not by love, but by fear, tribute, and overwhelming military power. At its head sat King Darius III. Ruler of kings, master of gold, land, and armies beyond counting. Persia did not merely conquer nations, it absorbed them, drained their wealth, and bent them to its will. Opposing this colossal empire was a rising force from the rugged mountains of Macedonia. Just a few years earlier, Macedonia had been dismissed by the Persians as a backward kingdom on the edge of civilization. But everything changed when Alexander the Great ascended the throne after the assassination of his father, King Philip II. Trained personally by Aristotle, hardened by battlefield experience since his teenage years, and driven by an almost supernatural ambition, Alexander believed he was destined to conquer the world, not for wealth alone, but for eternal glory. Alexander's campaign against Persia began with lightning speed. He crossed the Hellespont in 334 BC, symbolically throwing a spear into Asian soil to claim it as his own. City after city fell. At the Battle of the Granicus River, Persian satraps underestimated him and paid with their lives. At Issus, Alexander faced Darius III for the first time and forced the great king to flee, abandoning his own family on the battlefield. That humiliation burned deep into Darius's soul. After Issus, Alexander did not rush east immediately. Instead, he secured the Mediterranean coast, crushing Tyre after a brutal 7-month siege and marching into Egypt, where he was welcomed not as a conqueror but as a liberator. There, he founded the city of Alexandria and was proclaimed the son of the god Amun, further strengthening his belief that he was divinely chosen. Meanwhile, Darius III prepared for revenge. He understood his previous mistakes. He would not fight Alexander in narrow terrain again. This time, he would fight on his terms. He ordered the plains near the village of Gaugamela to be flattened and cleared of obstacles, creating perfect ground for his cavalry and chariots. He summoned troops from every corner of his empire: Persians, Medes, Bactrians, Indians, Armenians, Scythians. The result was an army so massive that ancient sources struggled to count it, estimating anywhere between 200 to 250,000 men. In contrast, Alexander's army numbered only around 47,000, approximately 40,000 infantry and 7,000 cavalry. They were veterans, disciplined and loyal, but exhausted after years of constant campaigning. Many advised Alexander to retreat or negotiate. Some even suggested attacking at night to avoid the full force of the Persian army. Alexander refused. He would fight in daylight, face to face, and prove once and for all who deserved to rule the world. On the night before the battle, something remarkable happened. While the Persian camp buzzed with noise, fear, and constant readiness, Alexander slept peacefully. When one of his generals asked how he could sleep with such odds against him, Alexander replied that Darius had already done him a great favor by gathering his entire empire in one place. Tomorrow, there would be no need for further wars. As dawn broke over Gaugamela, the stage was set for one of the greatest military confrontations in human history. Darius stood at the center of his army in a golden chariot, surrounded by elite guards. Alexander positioned himself on the right wing, leading the companion cavalry, his most trusted force. What followed was not merely a clash of armies, but a battle between fear and confidence, numbers and intelligence, empire and destiny. And as the first war chariots began to roll forward, the fate of the ancient world hung in the balance. As the battle erupted at Gaugamela, the Persian plan unfolded exactly as Darius had designed it. Scythe chariots thundered forward, their blades meant to slice through Macedonian ranks, while waves of cavalry attempted to overwhelm Alexander's smaller force from every direction. But what Darius did not understand was that Alexander was not reacting to the battlefield, he was shaping it. The Macedonian phalanx opened deliberate gaps, allowing the chariots to pass through harmlessly, where they were neutralized by agile infantry and javelin throwers trained specifically for this moment. Meanwhile, Alexander slowly advanced his right wing at an angle, pulling Persian cavalry away from their center and stretching their formation thinner and thinner. Darius believed he was winning ground, but in reality, he was being lured into a trap. At the perfect moment, Alexander saw the opening he had been waiting for, a gap in the Persian center, directly in front of Darius himself. Without hesitation, Alexander formed his companion cavalry into a deadly wedge and charged straight at the heart of the Persian army. Dust filled the air, spears shattered, men fell screaming, and suddenly the impossible happened. The great king of Persia saw Alexander riding directly toward him. Fear spread faster than any weapon. Darius turned his chariot and fled, and with that single moment, the spirit of the Persian army collapsed. What had begun as an overwhelming show of imperial power dissolved into chaos, panic, and retreat. By the end of the day, the battlefield of Gaugamela was littered with the remains of an empire that had ruled the world for centuries. Babylon, Susa, Persepolis, all soon fell into Alexander's hands. With just 47,000 men, Alexander the Great did not merely win a battle, he erased an empire from history and proved that strategy, leadership, and courage could defeat even the greatest numbers. Gaugamela was not just a victory, it was the moment the world changed forever.